Joe Rogan Experience.
Drink by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
What's up, Jeff? Good to be back. I came in, I was doing my buddy Scott Horton show and hanging out with him for a little bit.
And you're looking for a place to escape.
Yeah, exactly.
New York, Schultz told me that New York is like they just won World War III. People are dancing in the streets.
I was there in Union Square the other day. And it was the day they called it for Biden. And as much as I just despise Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, it was kind of nice for the city to just have one.
Yeah.
Just to have a day. It's the only day that it's felt happy there since March.
Here too, people are honking in the streets. I went to dinner with Tom Segura. He was in town,
and we were driving down the streets, people were honking and cheering, and people were so happy. I'm happy for people to be happy.
Yeah,
I like that.
Even if they're happy for a stupid reason,
Well,
you're like, at least be happy.
It's too complicated, and you're a guy who knows a lot about politics and the way the world works, but it's too complicated to really go into depth about it for most people. So many people just have this sort of cursory understanding of politics, and then they follow a narrative. The narrative is Trump is bad, you get him out, Biden's good. And then you go, yeah, well, what about the crime bill? What about the Iraq war? What about this and that and that and that? What about what she did? Nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to hear it. All they want to say is the good guys won. Now we're going to go back to being America again.
Yeah.
Then Pfizer announces a new vaccine.
Well, it would be nice if we could go back to being America again. I think we're
Yeah.
still far off from that happening. But you're right that I think most people, and it's not just politics, it's true with everything. Like most people have expertise in very limited areas, and for everything else, you're kind of just trusting what somebody else thinks.
Yeah, and especially with politics, it's so. I know very little about it, even though I've read a lot about it. I'm like, what is all this? You know there's some fuckery going on, and you know there's a lot of special interests, and there's a lot of money, and there's a lot of shenanigans. But it's like, to really know how this stuff works, to really understand lobbyists, to really understand how bills get passed, to really understand Congress, to really understand the Senate, like, you got a deep dive for years.
Yeah, and then you still don't know a lot of it. I mean, you can go based off, say, like, what's been declassified that the CIA has been doing, but what do we not know? I mean, and there's a whole lot that we don't know. But I think we know enough to know that it stinks, that there's a lot of corruption. And in many ways, I think that's what Trump, at least the people who support Trump, saw him as, is the guy who was outside that system, who was kind of fighting for them. Not saying that's the truth, but I think that's what a lot of Trump supporters saw in him.
Yeah, that was the simplistic comic book version of what Trump was to them. Is like, and that's where like that QAnon stuff all comes in, and people thinking that it's really like this plot to stop child molesters and.
Yeah, well, and the system is always corrupt enough to give cover to the wildest conspiracy theory, because they are already, like, you could say, okay, well, perhaps, QAnon conspiracy theorists believe some really crazy shit, but then you just go, but look at what happened with this Jeffrey Epstein guy. I mean, there really was this child sex trafficking ring that was covered up. I mean, we have that woman on ABC News who was basically saying, I broke the story, and my bosses told me no.
I think it was NBC.
Was it NBC? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we broke the story, but they wanted to protect access to the royal family. So we would let a powerful multimillionaire or billionaire child sex trafficking ring leader go skate because we wanted access to the royal family.
What the fuck, dude? How about that video where the interview where Prince Andrew? It's Andrew, right? Princess Andrew. Prince. I misgendered him. I'm so sorry. Prince Andrew is on television with that lady, and they're asking him questions about whether or not he was there and what happened, and you could see this look in his face like he's never really been questioned before.
Yeah.
And the fact that he agreed to do that is so weird. Like, it's almost like he doesn't understand what a trap is. Look, I've never been trapped before. I'm a royal.
Yeah.
Is he a royal anymore, or did they kick him out? Something happened?
I'm not sure.
They can kick you out.
Yeah, they can.
They kicked out the dude who hooked up with the actress.
Yeah, he wanted to be. I think he left.
I think he left too, but he wanted to go back for something. They go, nah, son.
You're done.
Wasn't there something recent, Jamie? Wasn't there something weird? Which one's he? Harry? Or is that Harry Potter? Am I thinking of Harry Potter?
I think you're right. It's Harry. Yeah, I think you confused me with the Harry Potter.
I just think it's fucking so preposterous that we literally don't know anything that guy's done other than that he's a prince. Prince Harry saddened and disappointed that his request for Remembrance Day wreath was denied. Oh no. The Duke of Sussex.
We spend a lot of time...
Look at that name, Sussex.
Yeah.
Was saddened and disappointed at the decision to snub his request for laid out at the National Memorial in London.
Man, the level of suffering that he must go through to not get his royal wreath.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder why. Yeah, I don't think they let him. Decorated war hero. What? Prince Andrew's a decorated war hero? What did he do?
That's news to me.
I pressed buttons that led to victory.
Yeah, I have a feeling the prince wasn't on the front line. We're just like throwing him out.
He's a Royal Navy helicopter pilot in the war with Argentina to recapture the Falkland Islands in the 1980s and returned as a hero. I didn't even know there was a war with Argentina in the 1980s. Oh, I remember the Falkland Islands. I remember the name.
Yeah, this smells like bullshit to me. I don't believe he's a war hero for a second.
I'm a war hero and a royal. I demand a 16-year-old girl.
Well, you say it like that.
Damn.
We'll see what we can get you.
It's just amazing that Epstein guy roped so many people into that shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's real weird, man. It's real weird when something that creepy turns out to be true.
Yeah, and it's very revealing. I mean, it's like, so if you had an honest press, you know, if they weren't every bit as corrupt as those conspiracy theorists think they are, you would think that the fact that, say, like a former president was on his flight logs would have led to a huge scandal where they would really want to get to the bottom of that. You would think right now they'd still want to get to the bottom of that. Like, hey, who else was involved in this? What is it? Now, okay, he was on his plane. We don't know that that means that Bill Clinton was involved in the worst aspects of it. But you would think the press would at least want to find that out. And there's very little interest.
No, because if the press goes after Bill Clinton, then Hillary Clinton gets somehow connected to it, and then that could sink Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and that's bad for the people that hate Donald Trump.
Well, that's for sure.
Big mansion to be demolished. Oh my God. Local real estate developer says he's in contract to buy the waterfront estate and is planning to knock it down and build a new home. That's the smart move.
$22 million.
Oh shit. Yeah, well, it's expensive down there. Meanwhile, it's going to be underwater in like 5 years, according to Al Gore. Right?
I also already left it to a Christian group, which I was trying to find too. So I don't know which one of those two stories. This is in the Wall Street Journal, so I'll believe that he left it to someone.
Do you think they just have to knock it down just because it's his? Mm-hmm. So they kind of have to?
Yeah.
Do you think it'd be awkward if there was like part of it they wanted to keep?
When I was looking at real estate in Boulder, the house where the little girl was killed, what is her name? The little girl who's in the... JonBenet Ramsey. That house has been for sale forever. They can't sell it. I think they even changed the address. They might have even changed the name of the street, trying to sell it, and they just couldn't sell it. Because I remember we were looking at it like, this house is nice. Like, why is it so cheap? It's one of those deals. And then you find out, you're like, oh, fuck.
Because if you can afford a nice house, you'd probably prefer not the one that a little girl was killed in.
Nobody wants that house.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that house.
What are you going to do with the one in New York? It says it's listed at $88 million.
I'm going to buy it. I'm moving to New York. moving the show to New York. I'm buying it as long as it comes to the painting of Bill Clinton in the blue dress.
I heard it's set up with a lot of equipment, so we should be able to do a show.
Okay. Let's go. Oh, yeah, it streams right to the CIA. You don't even have to get them to watch you on YouTube. They get a live feed. Yeah, I'm gonna buy that house. All right. Fuck it.
$88 million.
Why not?
It's pretty epic.
It's probably a really good investment. Probably worth $89 million eventually.
Yeah, and then
70 or something, so it's already gone up.
And then if you try to sell it, it'll be like, oh, this was Joe Rogan's place. It won't have that Epstein, stink on it anymore.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
I think it's a good move. I support it.
My guy. See if I can make it happen. I wouldn't buy a fucking newsstand in New York City. I don't believe in New York City anymore. I don't. I think that de Blasio guy has ruined that place for a solid 10 years.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think
we got the fans on here, right? I could smoke the cigar.
They were. I'll go double check.
Okay.
Yeah, here it says it's for sale right now. Gargantuan New York City mansion, home to Epstein hoarders.
Oh, you can rent it. $30,000 a month.
Yeah, bam.
That's what we need to do. We need to just rent it.
Could do a month of podcast.
You know what we should do? We should fill it up with homeless people.
They leave.
Just rent it and just let homeless people live there. Just tell them we want one room to do the podcast, and then we'll have security that makes sure the homeless people don't go in that room. Everything else, you do whatever you want.
Now that actually sounds like a Bill de Blasio plan that you're putting into effect. That's more or less what he's been doing. Yeah.
It's progressive.
Yeah, there you go.
Imagine we did that. Imagine.
They probably give you a freaking medal. Bill de Blasio would probably celebrate you for doing it.
That guy's so silly. You know that's not his real name?
Yeah, I do know that.
It's kind of like a German name.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a very, very weird guy.
Oh, he's the weirdest.
And really committed to his weird ideology that he wants, like to not just when things get back to normal, they can't get back to the regular normal. It's got to be this more, inclusive normal, and so he's taken it upon himself that he's going to try to remake New York City in his progressive image. While the city's going through the worst year it's been through in my lifetime.
He's an odd duck. I don't know how he got there. I don't live there, so I don't understand it. But New York City, tell me if this is true, but I'm pretty sure, Jamie, that 1% of the people in New York City pay 50% of the taxes.
That sounds reasonable. Yeah.
The fact that you could piss those people off and still be mayor is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, how does...
Well, they still only get one vote each. So, that's kind of the way it works.
That's cute. Well, you just said it's cute. Like, it really works that way. It's just one person, one vote. That's it. Yeah. No one has any additional influence at all.
Well, no, but I'm just saying that if you can win elections by playing to other people, and also that, some of those people kind of like the progressive rhetoric.
Look at this. Look at this statistic. It's bananas. The highest earning 1% of New York City residents 43% of the city income taxes and 51% of the New York state income taxes collected from individuals living in the city as of 2016. That's crazy. That's so much money.
And then you hear all this stuff about paying your fair share. Jesus. And it's like, so where exactly does that come in? Is that not enough?
Well, it's like LA, right? It's like a lot of people felt like even though the taxes were exorbitant, it was worth it because LA pre-COVID was pretty badass. The Comedy Store for us, obviously I'm comedy centric, but the Comedy Store was open. The restaurants were amazing. There's so many things to do. It's just, it's crowded, but the people are cool as fuck. It's like there's a lot of good things. And then as soon as COVID hit, everybody was like, why are we here?
Yeah.
Like, why am I paying so much? And then they start talking about raising the taxes to 16+% state taxes. That's more than I give my agent.
Yeah, right.
You imagine?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, and it's I think that also happened, I think even more so in New York, because when in New York, it's the same thing. It's like, well, it's expensive. You pay a ton for your rent or to own or whatever. But, it's like the best museums, the best nightlife, the best food, the best all these things. Yeah. But then all of a sudden, when the lockdowns hit, now people are like locked down in a one-bedroom apartment that they could get a house for, anywhere else in the country. And a lot of people started to re-question, why am I here?
And people started looking real pale. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of my friends that lived there, they would go out very rarely. And when you see them, they'd be like real sunken in. And like, that is the worst look for your immune system. Because you're not getting any vitamin D.
Yeah.
You're not out there at all.
Well, that's the terrible irony of this whole thing, right? Is that it really ended up fucking over so many people's immune systems, because the worst thing you could do, like the best thing you could do for COVID is have your immune system in good shape.
Yeah.
And the worst thing you could do for your immune system is like stay inside all day, be in a constant state of anxiety, don't get sun, don't get fresh air, eat like shit, drink too much, it's everything.
And have no money.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're out of work, so incredible pressure on you.
Yeah. And we may never know exactly what the total human cost of all of that was, but we'll get more of a sense of it over the next few years.
Yeah, it's sort of a disingenuous argument because they're comparing the total cost of the lockdown to the lost lives because of the pandemic. The problem is if there wasn't a lockdown, the loss of lives would be far greater, and so you're comparing it to a different thing.
Well,
because they're saying it shouldn't lock down. No one should have ever locked down. But if they didn't lock down, how many more people would have died? It's a real good question.
No, right? It's a lot of people like to make this a simplistic calculation, and it's an enormously complicated one because there's many different variables on both sides. So how many lives were saved by locking down? I think it's very debatable. I don't really know that it's but I don't claim to know.
I think for sure it was some.
Quite possibly, but then you'd also have to look just first, apples to apples, how many lives were cost from the lockdown. And I've read stuff, I was reading the other day, it was in England, but I'm sure the same is true here, that cancer screenings have plummeted over the last year. So now there's going to be all types of preventable cancers that are we won't know this for years if we can ever really trace it back, but a whole bunch of people will die from that. Depression has been way up, suicides seem to be going up. There's all these different costs. And then, of course, what is the human cost of destroying people's livelihoods.
Right.
And it's very, very hard to weigh these things out. And as you pointed out, you'd have to weigh it versus the cost of lives without the lockdown, not necessarily with. But it's like with a lot of these other issues. People like to make it a very simplistic. Well, if you want to prevent the virus, you have to be for the solution.
Right.
Same with like climate change. If you want to prevent climate change, you got to be for the Green New Deal. But the truth is that the real answer is like, well, what is this going to cost versus what is this going to cost, and which one is worse?
Yeah.
Which is sucks because you have to think.
Well, it's really important to have lively debate on these things. And one of the things that's going on now is people are trying to shut down debate. They want you to agree with their side. And this is something that social media has really reinforced, right? Like social media echo chambers. They want you to be on their side. If you're not on their side, they just hit you with a bunch of bullshit about why you shouldn't, why you're on the wrong side of history, why you're a bad person. And we were talking before the podcast about lists that people are making, about people who supported Donald Trump or people who voted for Donald Trump or people who worked in the administration. They're making these lists. And like literally blacklists. Like they have no irony about suggesting these blacklists. Like you're going to Soviet Russia type shit. Like this is
right. And meanwhile, Joe Biden is saying in his acceptance speech that well, now's the time to bring everybody together.
Yeah.
Like we all need to be one. Yada yada. Which is kind of a nice thought, but it's a little hard to take seriously when all of these people in your party and who have been, supporting you, have been calling everybody else on the other side, white supremacists, Nazis for the last 4 years, to now that you're claiming you won, say, hey, we all have to come together. Meanwhile, other members of your party are saying, we got to create lists of people. So like this.
Well, AOC said it.
Yeah. A pretty influential member of the Democrats. Which, she's made herself like huge.
She'll be president.
I don't know about that.
She could do it.
She's not very popular outside of her district.
I don't know about that. I think with young people, she represents like this idea that someone like her, young, hardworking, out there hustling, seriously progressive values, that you can get pretty far, and certainly in the public eye.
Well, you certainly can do what she's doing. I mean, she's proved that. Like, you could go to a very blue district and primary one of the most establishment Democrats and rise to national prominence. So she did that. I don't know. Right now in the country, I think AOC would have a really tough time getting elected on a national level. But
maybe.
Who knows? Maybe
well, she's only 30.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, so she's got a lot of time. Boy, when I was 30, I was so fucking stupid. It's kind of amazing. Not that I'm not that stupid now. I'm fairly stupid now, but boy, when I was 30, I was dumb.
Yeah, well,
kind
she has a little bit of that
congresswoman.
too.
Yeah, well, everybody does when they're 30. Bridget Fetisi. Bridget Fetisi read some of her writing that she wrote when she was 24. She's like, oh my God, I was basically AOC. She's like, I was such a lefty. I was so delusional. She goes, and now I'm just so much more of a realist. My worry about this Biden thing is that people voted for Biden because they hate Trump. They didn't vote for Biden because he's a leader that they respect and they want and they admire, and that he's going to lead us out of it. Like if Obama was calling for unity, if he was the guy that was the president and he was calling for unity, we've got to abandon all these ideas, about division. We're all together. And he brought everybody together again. That might work. People might recognize that this really intelligent guy with this message of unity should be listened to.
Well, but that did happen, right? I mean, that happened in 2008. That's what Obama said when he won. And there was a decent amount of unity. I think he had over 70% approval rating when he first came in. I mean, it wasn't certainly anything like the country is now.
Right.
But at the end of 8 years of Obama, you had a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and Donald fucking Trump elected president. So we had that, but it didn't matter because even with such a charismatic guy like Obama calling for unity and saying a lot of the right things, at least at first, the policies and what was actually happening in the country were really fucking over huge numbers of people. And then also things that might have been somewhat out of Obama's control, but not completely out, is that the era of, it was like the Obama recovery, which was the most like cronyist, corrupt recovery ever, and the woke lecturing all rose up at the same time in the Obama years. Not all of it his fault, but some of it is.
Did you see that Kamala Harris has her gender pronouns in her bio
Oh
on
yeah.
Twitter now?
Oh yeah. I saw her say that in a CNN town hall when she was still running for president. She came out and just no one even asked her. She just went, "I'm Kamala Harris. My genders are she, her."
No!
What the fuck is this? What is going on?
No! Did you see what Giannis Papas wrote?
No.
He wrote, my gender is he, haw. He's like, I'm going to start a trend here. I recognize as he, haw.
That's great.
I might take that on too. I might do that. He, haw. I like it.
It's a very strange
There it
thing.
is.
It's in his bio.
Hee-haw! Scientist and journalist, he wrote. Ah!
Oh, that's fucking great.
It's hilarious.
And a mask protects me and everybody around me. And I especially wear a mask to protect her. Wear a mask to stop the spread.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
My tax dollars paid for that dumbass commercial just now? Wait a minute. Paid for by Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars. Wait a minute. I just helped pay for a commercial of some motherfucker promoting wearing masks, like a commercial. Hey, I wear my mask to protect others, especially to protect her. And there's some young black kid going over to his grandma's house. I'm so happy you wearing your mask, cause you might kill me with that COVID. Oh my God, the brainwashing is real. The brainwashing is real, and I can't believe I helped pay for that shit just now. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous, man.
He really did care about the unity or whatever, which I think is like something that maybe we should care about a little bit.
sure.
Like, I mean, not that we all have to like agree on everything, or I don't like this. We don't have to all be one and all have the same, attitude about everything. But when you see what's going on in the country over this year, the culture war shit is really scary, and like people should be appropriately concerned about that. When you see what's going on in what's going on in Portland this year, where you had like the fucking like militias facing off against each other. You have like the Antifa versus the Proud Boys type shit. It's like they're playing pretend civil war.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a game.
They're LARPing.
Right, but it's kind of not that far off.
Right, because people got shot and killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are people on guns staring each other down, and for every sane person should be like, you do not want to see a civil war in this fucking country. I don't care how much fun you think this is right now in the moment. You don't want this to actually come to you holding your buddy's head while he bleeds out and screams for his mom. Like, you don't want that. So the idea of toning that down is a good idea. But I think the only way to do that is to understand why Donald Trump was president to begin with. And that, like, to me, the big story of all of this isn't that Joe Biden looks like he's going to be the president. That's kind of boring to me. It's like, yeah, Joe Biden got elected. He's been getting elected for fucking almost 50 years. Like, what? Okay. The story is still that Donald Trump won the presidency, and then 4 years later got like millions more votes than he got the first time, and almost by a hair almost won it again. I mean, that's like pretty fucking crazy. Did you see when he was in Pennsylvania? And he drew 53,000 people to his rally in central Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And they start off, the first 4 minutes of it are a chant, "We love you, we love you." I mean, what the fuck is that? What's going on here? And to just kind of dismiss it, the corporate press attitude is like, well, it's racism. I think there's a little bit more.
Failure of the education system.
I mean, I always agree with failure of the education system. That is always an acceptable answer. But I think
it's a rejection of looting. It's a rejection of the woke culture. It's a rejection of being called a racist and being called a fascist.
That's a big part of it.
It's a lot of this call for a radical shift in the identity of America.
Well, I think that's a huge part of it. I also think that if you're the woke lecturing is almost like just the insult on top. Like if you're one of these people who lives in these towns, you've seen for decades now, like factories disappear, jobs get outsourced, the life expectancy has gone down, suicides have gone up. You're one of these some guy in central Pennsylvania or all over the country, and You probably lost your job. Now you're working a shittier job. You never really came back from where you were after 2008. Maybe you got a son who's addicted to opioids. You got another son who, like, you know, has never been the same since he got back from one of these stupid wars. And then after all that, the people who sent you there are now lecturing you about your white privilege. And then Donald Trump, all it really took was Donald Trump came in and said, you know what? I'm for you.
Yeah.
I'm for you. I'm not for the Mexicans or the Muslims. I'm not for this woke shit. I'm for you, and I want you to win.
It's a simplistic message.
Sure.
And that's one of the things that he got across. He boiled down the whole thing to, like, make America great again. Like, that's a simplistic message. And to people that want to sort of, like, they really, you know, some country music songs. By the way, I'm a fan of country music. I like a lot of country music. But a lot of country music I don't like, because I know what you're doing. You're just trying to box everything into this real simple, we're going to go down to the lake, we're going to have ourselves a drink. You know, like, you know what I'm saying? We're going to take my truck, everything's going to be great. You know, I miss my grandma. Like, there's like this simplistic, really boiled down worldview. And it comforts people, because people are scared of nuance, and they're scared of the complexity of life.
Yes, and Donald Trump was a master at that.
Yeah.
Boiling things down to a real simple slogan, a real, you know, simple phrase that people can wrap their heads around and get behind. But there's also that on the opposition to Trump's side, where they try to boil things down to, like, well, it was racism, or it was white supremacy, or something like that. Yeah. And you're like, there's a lot more going on here. And I really think that if like, these people on some level recognize that they've been screwed over by the establishment, forgotten by them, and that they are hated by the establishment, which is true. Like, they're right about that. And so they wanted someone to fight for them. And I think Trump represents that to them. I don't think he really was that, from my perspective. I think he's kind of a con artist. But I do think that he tapped into something that's really powerful, and that actually could get a lot worse if there's not some kind of, like, reconciling with it.
Yeah, how does it get better now? That's the real question. Like, because how does it get better with Biden and Kamala Harris? I mean, unless people unless people realize that things aren't going to change for the better with them in office.
Well, I think that realization is going to come
about a year and a half
soon.
From now.
Yeah, something like that, maybe even sooner, because things move fast these days.
Yeah.
But I do think that one of the things that's interesting with Biden and Kamala Harris is that a lot of these, like, super progressive people are celebrating right now because Trump was out, you know, and so Trump was defeated, and they feel like they helped get Biden and Kamala Harris in, they were certainly a portion of helping them. And then Trump also is the one who is saying, like, well, you know, Joe Biden, he's just a Trojan horse for AOC and Ilhan Omar. He's a Trojan horse for socialism, which is actually complete bullshit. Joe Biden, if anything, is a Trojan horse for Dick Cheney. Joe Biden is a Trojan horse for the establishment, war hawks, big banks, corporate elite, tech giants.
The people he's filling his cabinet.
Yeah, it's going to be them.
He's filling his cabinet with Republicans.
Mm-hmm. But those Republicans.
Yes.
But those Republicans. Yeah. The ones who basically caused this whole mess to begin with.
One of the things that Trump said during his campaign, he's saying, talking about how much money that Joe Biden raised, he said, I could raise that money too, but I'd have to make those deals, and then I'd have to be compromised. And when he was saying that, I was like, he's right.
He's not wrong about that.
He's not wrong about that, because if he decided to play ball with all those guys, like, they would have got behind him. And the narrative would have switched.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it's interesting. It's a really important question that people might want to ponder. Even people who really hate Donald Trump. And you can really hate Donald Trump. That's fine. But you might wonder why it is that the establishment hates him so much. And my guess is that it's not for the same reasons that your left-wing friend hates Donald Trump. Like, I don't buy for a fucking second that the CIA and the Republican establishment hated Donald Trump because he said mean things about Mexicans. Like, I just don't buy that for a fucking second. These are people who will slaughter brown people in third world countries and lose no sleep over it. Like, I don't buy that's why they hated him. I think what they hated about Donald Trump was that he was a wild man who would blurt out things And he'd blurt out a lot of crazy shit, but then he'd also blurt out the truth. And that was something that you're not supposed to say that. Like, when Donald Trump was running in 2016, he stood at the Republican primary debate stage in South Carolina, Republicans in South Carolina, and looked at Jeb Bush in the eyes and said, your brother lied us into war in Iraq. And everyone was like, what the fuck? Like, you can't say that at the Republican South Carolina. And all the pundits, all the media class, they were like, Trump's finished now. Because these are the people who fought the war in Iraq, and these are the most pro-military people around. And the next day, at the primary, Donald Trump took 60%, and all the other Republicans, all 12 of them, split the other 40%.
Imagine if he didn't say a lot of the dumb shit that he said. Like the shit about McCain. Like, I like people don't get caught.
When you think of DraftKings, you might think sports, but there's so much more. DraftKings use their top-of-the-line technology.
Imagine he didn't say that.
Imagine he didn't say the dumbest shit. The dumbest shit that he said. Remember the Gold Star family, the family where
the Khan family.
Yes, yeah. Where he criticized the family about some. I forget what the exact.
It was they spoke at the DNC, right. And then he started trashing them.
Yes, and their son died representing this country in war, and everybody was like, "Well, you can't. That's it. He's done." Nope. Nope.
Wasn't done.
Imagine if he didn't do that.
Well, but by the way, when that happened, I remember just screaming about this on my podcast, because I was just like, the response was right there, and it took him like 4 days, but eventually he did get it right, where he was just like, yeah, they died in a war that Hillary Clinton supported. What? That's the response.
Is this a new one? Trump suggests Gold Star families may be to blame for his infection?
I think it was the second thing.
Oh, yeah, no, this is a different thing than what we were
This is
talking
new.
about.
The president, who is counting on support from the military members and their families, suggested that for a second time a week that they might have spread the coronavirus at the White House. Also, this is different Gold Star families.
That's the only president.
But hold on a second. Is that a real direct quote? The problem is I don't.
Yeah, you got to.
This is New York Times. New York Times has gone full woke. They want to hug me. They want to kiss me. And they do, frankly. I'm not telling them to back up. I'm not doing it. But I did say it's obviously dangerous. Okay,
all right. That's not exactly
the same thing.
Them.
Yeah, that's not the same thing. He's just telling them the truth. Yeah. See, that's the other thing too. This quote that they keep reiterating this thing. He disparaged American troops who died in wars as losers and suckers. But they're saying this in quotes.
Yes, because it was quoted by some anonymous source who claims that he said that.
Yeah, but that is, how do you do that? Multiple sources. See, but you can say that. You can say multiple sources. But unless the people go on record, it seems like a very disingenuous thing to say.
Yeah, well, did you see the guy who was
am I wrong about that?
Oh no, you're absolutely right. Did you see the guy who revealed his identity, who was the guy who was behind that New York Times story?
Yeah,
and they said high level, anonymous.
Yeah.
They said high level executive. And then there were all these people in the media speculating, and they were like, well, the New York Times wouldn't do this unless this was a really high level person. It was basically like wink wink, this might be Pence. This might be, Jared Kushner. This could be anybody saying this shit. And then it turns out it's like, oh, this was like some guy who was once a chief of staff at the Department of Homeland Security. Now, I'm not saying that's nothing, but it's not at all what you were kind of making people think. So I think it's a very shady way to do journalism. And that's one of the things that I think is like one of the bright spots of the Trump administration. One of the best things that he was able to draw out was how agenda-driven the corporate press is. And you can agree with their agenda on hating Donald Trump, maybe that's how you feel, but it's still something everybody knows now that they are agenda-driven. They're not here like, we just give you the information.
They're activists.
Yes.
That's the rise of the activist journalist is, I understand from their perspective that they feel like they have this platform to do a good thing, but I feel like you do the best thing by telling the cold hard facts and letting people who are actually activists rather, do the activist work with those cold hard facts.
I have no problem with that. If you want to be an activist, go be an activist.
Yeah, but I think
just be honest.
As a journalist, though, I think it's it's real slippery when you do things like that, like those quotes, losers and suckers. Unless you know who said it, unless they're willing to go on record and say, I heard him say it, then you don't necessarily have a story. It's not
Right.
the same. And how did he say it?
Yes.
What was the?
And particularly if he denies it.
Yeah.
So if, you know, like if I were to just say, oh, Joe told me this thing
Right.
last month, and you go, I never said that.
Right.
You can't just run with it and quote that you
Right.
said it, because
But it's
you have
like
no way of knowing.
the grab him by the pussy thing. You heard it, right?
Well, that was
That's
said.
real.
That was said.
That was there, right? So anything else, it's just so strange. I know, I understand their position, that they're coming from this place where they feel like they can do a lot of good. They can change opinions, and they feel like the country's going in a bad direction. And they felt like with Donald Trump, this country's sliding into this horrible fascist state, and they want to do everything they can to prevent it, and they have the green light from all the other people that are there. But like all this stuff, these lessons that have been learned in the past about why it's so important to be totally honest and unbiased in terms of disseminating information. Like you have to kind of do that. And then other people are supposed to take that information that you've disseminated unbiased and have these perspectives and debate both sides. That's what's supposed to happen. The problem is when you get this distorted perception from the media that's very biased and that is not objective at all. It's like you're trying to lean towards a very particular conclusion that they think is right. They think is the good thing. But when you do that, then you don't have like who is the Walter Mondale or who's not Walter Mondale, Walter Cronkite? Who is the unbiased journalist? Who's the one that we trust for information? It used to be the New York Times. The New York Times used to be like brutally honest about basically everything. And now you read something in the New York Times like we did, and we go, oh, it's the New York Times now.
Yeah.
Like that's a weird shift that's happened in the last 10 years, like less.
Yeah, but
right?
I mean, it's definitely been like exposed in the last 10 years. But I think that truthfully, I think it's kind of a silver lining that at least people are starting to be aware of that. And people are starting to go like, okay, I know that these institutions are not to be trusted. Because truthfully speaking, they got, you know, it's like I was saying to you before we started, where it's like for all the shit that people give Alex Jones, he got all of the biggest stories right over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he didn't get anything wrong, but really, really big things like should we go to war in Iraq?
Yeah.
Should we bail out bankers? Should all of this? He called these as lies and corruption right away. And the New York Times was selling all of these. I mean, they sold the war in Iraq. And so it's, to me, it's not the worst thing in the world if people at least recognize that these institutions are completely compromised. And I agree with you that there is a role for objective journalism, but I would at least accept if they were like, hey, listen, we think, like what you just said, we think we have this platform and we need to use this to get Donald Trump not elected. At least be honest with it. Don't bullshit me and tell me we're just doing objective news and every single story is about how Donald Trump is, you know, needs to.
They don't even address it. They don't say they're doing objective news anymore. They just do their thing.
Well, they call other news fake news. So they'll say
the New York Times doesn't.
Well, the New York Times may not, but I'm speaking of the corporate press in general.
Right.
They'll say, like, well, there's fake news out on the internet. And even the New York Times has done stories about how social media companies need to do more to, you know, combat fake news on the internet and things like that.
But they're talking about, like, super hardcore QAnon type shit, aren't they?
Well, kind of. I mean, it starts with that, and then they'll use that as an example, but then usually they also go to other things. Like, look, this New York Post story about Hunter Biden's laptop was called fake news from the day it came out, to the point that not only would all of the corporate press not report on it, but that social media companies were banning the link, and Twitter froze the New York Post Twitter account.
One of the CNN journalists on Twitter called it Russian disinformation.
Yes, there's a bunch of people called it Russian disinformation.
But I wonder if it was Russian disinformation, the photo of the girl giving him a foot job?
Yes.
Was that Russian?
That was all. She was Russian, and the foot was Russian. It was a Russian foot job.
What happened to that? I kind of lost track of what was happening with the laptop, but they like have they shared information of it?
Rudy Giuliani sold it on eBay.
Is that what's going on with the landscaping
Made a
thing?
killing.
With the Four Seasons landscaping.
I don't know. This is the thing that's going on. It's almost like too much information is coming at us.
Well, look, it's basically been verified that this was Hunter Biden's laptop. I mean, within any reasonable standard for a journalist to verify something. I mean, number one, the Bidens didn't deny it. Like, nobody actually came out and denied that this was. They had his signature at the repair shop, which they matched up to his signature. They've had other people on the email chains confirm that these were emails between them and Hunter Biden. So it's been pretty reasonably kind of verified that this was Hunter Biden. Now, I don't know about the crazier accusations that were made there. I mean, Rudy Giuliani said that there were pictures of underage girls and stuff like that. I don't know if that's true or not. But Rudy Giuliani did turn it over to the Delaware police. That is true, because the Delaware, a spokesman for the Attorney General, said that they received the laptop and that they sent it to the FBI. Now, I don't know why he would turn this over claiming this stuff was on there, and then they would send this to the FBI if there wasn't something, but I don't know. But what you do know, right, is that this was a story where they had these emails about Hunter Biden, who is very clearly a swamp creature, who was selling his father's name to rake in money from foreign companies. Now, truth be told, that's a kind of run-of-the-mill scandal as far as politics go.
Oh.
It's normal. Every senator's kid, family, wife, they all do stuff like this all the time. It's a corrupt swamp, you know? But it's a story, nonetheless. It may not be but to just make the conscious decision that we are a few weeks out from a presidential election, this can harm Biden, and therefore we're not mentioning it. We're not covering it. We're not trying to debunk this to a bunch of people. We are trying to make sure people never get their eyes on this.
Well, I think they felt the heat. They felt the heat from 2016, from the Hillary Clinton email debate. You know, like whether or not she should have deleted those emails, and the fact that Comey then opens up the investigation again in the middle of the campaign, and that was basically what even though she's won the popular vote, a lot of people felt like that was a bad move.
Yeah.
And so this year they said, we're going to do everything we can to get rid of Donald Trump. Again, they become activists instead of just journalists.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
Well, that's 100% what happened. I mean, they felt in a way that they were responsible for Donald Trump winning.
Ex-Hunter Biden associates records don't show proof of Biden business relationship amid unanswered questions. Well, Fox News has taken a turn, ladies and gentlemen. They seem to have made a conscious internal decision to not favor Donald Trump anymore.
I don't think Fox News was ever that behind Donald Trump. I mean, there's a few people at Fox News who are hardcore behind Donald Trump. But as an organization, I mean, remember, they were very hostile to him in the Republican primary. He wasn't the Fox News guy. Jeb Bush was the Fox News guy. And I think a lot of people are very happy to get rid of him.
Let me see that article again. This is interesting. But what does that mean?
So they don't.
But listen to this. Ex-Hunter Biden's associates' records don't show proof of Biden business relationship amid unanswered questions. That doesn't mean much.
No, well, what he claimed was that, and they're saying Joe Biden, that he couldn't prove Joe Biden was, it's a very confusing title, because he claimed that he had met with Joe Biden, and Joe Biden was aware of all the dealings that Hunter was doing.
Here it is. Fox News has reviewed emails from, look at that name, Bobulinski, related to the venture, and they don't show that the elder Biden had business dealings. Yeah, but see, that's weird. Like, you know, we can say that Jamie is my business associate, right? And if I'm involved in some shady shit and Jamie doesn't know about it, and Jamie and I are emailing back and forth, and they get into Jamie's emails and they say, Joe Rogan's business associate doesn't show any association.
What they're making the claim is that this is the evidence, is the emails. Though they're like, hey, we found some emails, and the emails say this, and now they're saying this. According to Fox News, they're like, that's not what they say.
Right, but the emails to who? Is it to that guy? Because if it's not to that guy, then this is not relevant, and then they're playing games with words. Like, I would have to read what exactly they're saying, what exactly he's saying.
Part of the problem too. I've looked a couple times. That's what I was sort of just looking again. Where? Normally this shit gets leaked. You know, like when all those celebrities got their fucking iClouds leaked, all those pictures hit the internet instantly, and you could find them all over the place. These emails have like barely been seen by, I feel like, anybody.
Well, these emails
like
were, I believe he turned these over to the FBI. So I don't know, you know, where they would leak from. Not to say that they couldn't leak, but I think the point of this article is that what he claimed, what this Bobulinski guy claimed, was that Joe Biden himself was very involved in all the business deals that Hunter and him were doing, and that his emails couldn't prove that. Because they, the thing was they said they had these references to like the big guy and stuff like that, but that they couldn't prove that Joe Biden knew about this. But he's claiming, whether this is true or not, he's claiming that he's met Joe Biden several times and they've talked about it, and Joe Biden was well aware of what Hunter Biden was doing and where he was making his money from. Again, I think it's kind of run-of-the-mill political scandal, that aspect of it.
Yeah.
The bigger thing is like that this goes on all over the place.
Right.
I mean, all over the fucking place. Like the conflicts of interest, the corruption. You see where Obama, was spoke after he's president, we get like $400,000 or something like that for a speech in front of bankers. And he was the guy who like presided over the bank bailout. Yep. And then you get out and it's like, oh, here's the bankers really just wanted to hear Barack Obama speak. I mean, he's a good speaker, but come on, man. Like, what's going on?
Hillary got a lot of those too.
Oh yeah, tons of them.
Yeah, and that's where they make the bulk of their money, right? When they get out of the office, then they do these speeches.
Yeah.
Which is kind of hilarious.
Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, I believe, the ballpark numbers, they left the White House, they were, like, net worth was around $4 million, and then it was, like, well over $100 million by 2016. So they made a lot of money after
we just
White
made
House.
today.
U.S. planned sale of F-35 fighter jets to UAE and $23 billion arms deal. Trump administration.
Yep.
They're saying, I was reading today, they're saying he's making a bunch of deals now on his way out.
Oh, sure. That it planned to sell 50 advanced F-35 fighters to the United Arab Emirates as a part of a broader arms deal worth more than...
I had to share this to my Facebook because they're talking about a lot of good stuff right now. A lot of good shit. People are so hype about that Joe Biden, Kamala Harris shit. All right. I have something to drink.
Billion. That's the weird thing about someone on the way out. They can do so much.
Well, I don't know that he's on the way out. I mean, he's...
You don't think he's on the way out?
Well, yeah, he's almost certainly on the way out, but he's going to fight it.
Yeah, but do you know how insanely difficult it is to prove, first of all, to prove that there's voter fraud, and then to prove there's enough voter fraud where they could overturn it?
It's incredibly difficult. And it's not just that he would have to do that, he'd have to do that in a few different states.
Yeah.
And so it's an incredibly difficult task. But it's pretty interesting. This is unlike anything I've ever seen before, where you have one president just saying, like, no, this was bullshit, and I'm going to fight it legally. And another thing that I thought was really weird from the press is that I saw it twice now, was on MSNBC and CNN, where he was giving a press conference saying how the votes were stolen from him and the system was unfair, and they cut away. They say, we will not show this because he's lying. And then just the other day on Fox News, Neil Cavuto cut away from Trump's press secretary saying there was voter fraud, and he goes, well, we can't verify that, so we can't air this. And it's like, look, man, whatever you want to say, this is a story.
Right.
The fact that the president is claiming voter fraud is a story. So air this and then debunk it afterward. But what is this thing where you go, no, we won't show people?
Right.
You can't see this story because the lies could poison you or something.
What if it's proven to be true? What if there is voter fraud?
Well, there is. It's a question of how widespread it is, because there's always voter fraud, which is another secret that they don't fucking like to tell. But there's always fucking some degree of voter fraud.
Do you find it odd that everybody insists that it's impossible to vote like safely and accurately online?
Yes, I find that odd. I also find it really, really odd that we overhaul the way we do voting in this country, and that now it's almost an entirely different process where both candidates are getting way more votes than they would normally get, and it's just very weird. There were a lot of things that were weird about this election, like the actual logistics of it.
It doesn't seem like if we can bank online, we should be able to vote online. It doesn't seem like if you could use like Apple Pay or Samsung Pay or something like that and go buy something, you use your fingerprint.
Yeah.
And it registers your fingerprint, and then you could buy a house.
Yeah, right.
I mean, how much can you spend on Apple Pay? Does it have a limit?
It's not about like that. It's the ease for everyone. Not everybody has that access.
They need to get their shit together.
Everyone.
Get it together.
Like they had the day of the elections, they were supposed to, where I'm from in Columbus, Franklin County, they were supposed to have like registration via iPads or something.
Right.
And that morning, they were not confident that everything got downloaded, so they just scrapped the whole thing, went back to paper. It was like that day. So it's just
Isn't that also a problem with these weird deadlines? Like we have to choose a leader in the free world in 20 hours.
What up, guys?
Go.
Yeah.
Like what? Is this a big important thing? Like do we really want to boil this down to 20 hours?
Well, the whole process is fucking retarded. Like the whole thing about it. The whole thing that it's like, so the system is that we have to basically, like 10,000 votes in Wisconsin is going to determine which half of the country is furious and which half is like elated because they get to rule over the other half now, and then hopefully in 4 years they can be happy and you're miserable because they get to rule over you now. It's so bizarre. Democracy in general is a very bizarre process. To have it in a country this big with this powerful of a government, it makes it insane. Like we're going to determine the course of history based off what a few votes in swing states determine. There's got to be a better way.
I was reading this thing about about Socrates, and Socrates was he was talking about how he didn't like the idea of democracy because Socrates felt like in order to make really important choices, you should almost have to prove your understanding of these issues, and that if it wasn't the case, I'm pretty sure it was Socrates. Look that up just in case. Thank you. Because he saw like what we basically have. Like, there's a lot of people that were on the ballot in California. I was like, what is this guy doing? What does he want? I didn't know much about them. Yeah. And I was like, does that sound right? I mean, I'm looking at this thing for an hour, right? I've got an hour to go, and then I can Google some of these bills.
Right.
And that's just me. How many people didn't? I mean, I gave a very cursory review of these ideas. How many people didn't at all? They just went blue all across the board or red all across the board.
Oh yeah, they're the majority, I'd say.
Yeah.
Just guessing, but I'd say the majority of people just vote their team and just don't even really look into it that much. But democracy was kind of considered like a joke before World War I. The idea, I mean, there weren't too many like functioning democracies. And that, I think that all changed with like Woodrow Wilson. We're going to make the world safe for democracy. We're going to overthrow all of these monarchs in Europe, which Europe was mostly monarchs at the time. And that ended. And then after that, you had the rise of like Lenin and Hitler and later Stalin and, you know, things that were much worse than the monarchies that they replaced. Yeah. But just in pure philosophy, like the idea that if 51% of people vote for something or somebody, that then it's completely morally legitimate for them to rule over the other 49% is completely absurd.
But what's the alternative?
Well, I mean, look,
a republic.
The alternative to all of this is liberty, which is the best answer, which is just basically that whether it's a democratic process or not, that the government should be so much more reduced, the power should be so much more reduced than what it is now, that it's not that consequential who gets in there, because they're not wielding that much power. And as long as you have, I mean, look, this is the major source of the culture war to begin with, even before the...
Well, it's kind of like that now. No matter who gets in office of the presidency, they're not wielding that much power, because the power is really in the hands of the corporations and the military-industrial complex. Like, that's where the seat of power is. And so presidents are just little more than figureheads, just like, yo, Shadow, what's up, bro? Just like the Queen of England is little more than a fucking figurehead. Shit is almost done. Oh, I guess that was the last one. Nope. All right. Let me go grab a lighter real quick. Well, I'm trying to. If I had some fire. I ain't got no matches or nothing in here. Shit. All right. There we go.
Media stuff, and before the woke lecturing, the major source is that the government is so powerful that you have to fight for your side to be in control of it, otherwise you're ruled over by the side who you hate. And this is, unless the only way forward that would solve this problem, that would defuse the culture war, is accepting some type of libertarianism. And what I just mean by that is just whatever exactly it is, something that says, okay, listen, you have these cultural views in Portland, and you have these cultural views in Alabama. You're not going to remake each other. You guys can live the way you want to live, and you guys can live the way you want to live, and you can peacefully coexist. The idea that you have to have this $5-6 trillion a year beast that's controlled by one side or another that hate each other is just going to keep this thing going and getting hotter and hotter.
Yeah, and then you have these ideological positions that these huge corporations attach themselves to siphon money off of.
Right.
You know, there's Evan Hafer. He's owner of Black Rifle Coffee, and he was on, and he was, he's a veteran, and
yo, Trump say he's suing. Trump say he got his lawyers and his legal team. He's taking legal actions. The vote was rigged. Y'all coming up, making up votes and shit. It's like this shit is unconstitutional, and he not going nowhere. Trump say he ain't going nowhere. He's still the president as far as he concerned. You know what I'm saying? He said fuck Biden and that Indian bitch. But I'm actually liking this guy who Joe Rogan is talking to, because both of them are saying like the same shit I be thinking about. It's like, okay, motherfuckers want Trump out of office because they hate Trump. But that doesn't mean like you even know or have a good understanding of what the fuck Biden and Camilla gonna do. It's like they don't care who the fuck gets in there, really. They don't care who it was, or what their policies are, or what their plans are, or what kind of agenda they're gonna work towards. They don't give a fuck about none of that shit. They just don't want Trump in there. And that's the hardest part for me to understand. It's just like, if you gonna vote that man out, man, vote somebody in who actually has a legitimate plan and a structured agenda. These motherfuckers don't give a fuck what Biden gonna do or anything, yo. They just don't want Trump in the White House no more. And I think that's fucking stupid. That's stupid as shit. So I would have let the motherfucker just stay in office my damn self. Everybody get 8 years, man. You know what I'm saying? That's why. When the last time the president only served for 4 years? And how many presidents actually accomplished like dramatic things in their first 4 years? Not a whole lot, yo. Most dramatic accomplishments for presidents come in their second term, after they've sat in the White House for 4 years. They've reorganized their cabinet and structured all of their fucking handlers the way that that fucking suits them, and they got a better understanding of it. And then the second term, motherfuckers get shit done. What? But yeah, like you say, that motherfucker ain't gonna give up, yo. They gonna have to drag his ass out, kicking and screaming. He ain't going nowhere. And when they do drag him out, he gonna be talking shit the whole time. The whole time. But did I vote? Nope. I ain't even vote. If I did vote, would I have voted for Biden? Hell no. I'm voting for that motherfucker. Creepy, sleepy, goddamn pedo Biden. Motherfucker. I'm just saying, goddamn 47 years holding official offices, different positions in the official office. Man, what the fuck have you ever accomplished, bro? I mean, hey, the shit is what it is, man, but once again, that's why I don't vote, because, you know, the president, that's why motherfuckers hate Trump. And then, like, the more I be looking at this bitch, like, over the last couple of years, too, like, in the beginning, I thought it was, like, a big-ass fucking joke. Like, really? This motherfucker is really the fucking president, yo. A businessman who was a goddamn reality TV show host. This motherfucker had a reality TV show. And now he the president at 60-something years old. how old this motherfucker is? Down there 70. No, Trump in the 60s or 70s. That motherfucker old as shit. And I'm like, is this really happening? But then, like, I don't know. I don't disagree with everything he does. You know, that's the only thing. No, I did not vote. I don't vote, and I did not vote in this election. And if I did vote, I would not have voted for Biden, is what I said. Like, if a motherfucker had a gun to my head and made me vote, you gotta vote, you got to. I ain't gonna vote for Biden. I say I would have voted for the motherfucker who's still the president. Let that bitch stay in the office, ride that shit out for another 4 years, and let's see what the fuck happens. Alright. That lesser of two evils, that shit don't sit well with me. That's why I don't vote in none of these motherfuckers, because nobody I really want to be the president ever makes it far enough for the last two delegates. I deleted that email, but I had an email from Biden's campaign wanting a Democratic delegate for the region that I live in, and they contacted me to see if I wanted to fill the spot as a delegate for Joe Biden, and I'm like, no thank you. I'm like, nah, bro, I'm good. I don't want to do that shit. That's what I'm saying, bro. Put out some policies that I can agree with, you know what I'm saying? You know, let's restructure the prison system. Let's do something about welfare and child support. Let's try to make marijuana a cash crop and decriminalize that shit. If somebody do some shit like that, I'll motherfucking vote for that shit, yo. That's what I vote for. Policies. Motherfuckers who gonna do some shit I want. If Andrew Yang would have made it this far, I would have voted for Andrew Yang. If Tulsi Gabbard would have made it this far, I would have voted for her. But they didn't make it this far, so I'm not gonna vote for Trump or Biden. Like I say, Trump already in office, just let the motherfucker stay in office. Ride that shit out for your 8 years, see what you can accomplish, and then on to the next one. And they play this back and forth shit all the time anyway, it's just so damn stupid. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers don't... I don't know. And then Trump is the only president who's ever said he had a plan specifically for the economic empowerment of the African American here in this country. You know, Ice Cube been in the news lately, and Ice Cube said he came up with a contract with Black America. He showed it to both parties. Trump said, I'll do this shit now. We can talk about this now. But Trump changed it a little bit and then changed the title from the contract with Black America, and he called it the Platinum Plan. But it was a plan for coffers for $500 billion or something towards the economic empowerment of the African American community, which is like a smidget. It's like chump change, really. because our analysts have conceded that the debt owed towards descendants of slaves in this country is upwards of $13 trillion. 13 trillion is what America needs to pay us back. $13 trillion. So his little 500 billion, that's like, it ain't even scratching the surface. But it's the simple fact that a white motherfucking Republican sitting president actually said that shit out his mouth. And it's like, damn, nigga, really? You talking about giving some money to the black people? Oh, shit. You know what I'm saying? So, shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, his whole thing with the Kung Flu. I kind of like, why you keep calling it the Chinese virus? Because it came from China. You know, like, you cannot agree with that. Like, there's just some things. Yo, he did. He tried to redo the tax bill. I mean, the income tax thing where, I forgot the, what number that shit was, but it was basically like a tax break for wealthier people. But, I mean, even lower bracket income families still had the opportunity to receive, well, to have less taxes taken out throughout the year and to receive more on their income tax return. And that was like in his first year in office. I actually saw more on my income tax return from that shit, so I was surprised about that. And then he did dish out that first stimulus package for COVID. And I don't know, like, some things I do agree with, and it just seems like the shit that any president should or would do in all of these situations and circumstances. But I can say at the same time, yo, yeah, man, left ring, white ring, it's the same bird, man. I don't care what you flapping off, boy. It's this way, that way. It's the same. It's the same bird. It's the same structure. It's the same system, you know. Trump said coronavirus will go away without a vaccine. Now see what happened. Are you gonna take the vaccine? Are you? You get in line first and take the coronavirus vaccine. You and your mom and your kids, I want y'all to go take that shit first. You know what I'm saying? Then y'all come back and tell me how that working out for y'all. 'Cause I ain't taking that shit. I'm not. I don't take vaccines anyway for nothing. I don't take my yearly flu shots. Like, fuck that shit. So, you know, that's what they say, herd immunity. Some scientists predict that this may be embedded, you know, into our bio system now. We just have this new strand of a coronavirus because it's a type of virus similar to the flu. The annual flu is a coronavirus, and there's always two strands because it mutates throughout the year. And so each flu season you can have a strand and a B strand, and now there's just another strand of this virus that is out there, and that's all it is to it. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just like the flu. There's a vaccine for the flu every year. So if you want your family to start taking another vaccine every year, hey, more power to you. If you're near to death, you will take it, I bet. No. No. If you're near to death from this shit, man, you're probably gonna die anyway. So, no. People are always near to death from all kinds of shit. And then once again, is it? I mean, how reliable are any fucking vaccines, other than like major vaccines that we have proven to work. Like, well, even those they go back and contaminate those and reverse them to spread more shit like polio and fucking like measles and all that fucking shit, yo. But now those viruses can be fucking manipulated and weaponized and all kind of shit. Malaria. Like, there's a lot of places where these viruses have been eradicated, and then other countries go in saying that, oh, we need to vaccinate these groups of people to keep their immunity up, and then wind up spreading the shit anyway. So it's always iffy with these shit, you know what I'm saying? Do we have major outbreaks of like measles and mumps and polio in America? No, we don't. And some people say that it's due to the effectiveness of the vaccines, which I think in part is true, but a greater percentage of it is just come from living in better sanitary conditions. You wash your ass more, you know, keep your hands clean more, and keep your house clean more, and you know, and viruses and germs and contraction rates drop. And that's what, even with this coronavirus, what they're telling people to do. Oh, wash your hands. Like, duh. Don't let people sneeze in your mouth. Duh. So, like, once again, I disagree and agree with Trump on a lot of shit. You know what I'm saying? If I had my head in a fucking chopping block and somebody made me vote, I would probably vote for Trump over Biden. You know? But until I see a candidate that has like more of my values as their fucking front running points, then I'm not gonna vote for none of them. Nobody. If you don't have enough talking points and policies squared away that I can agree with and ride on that shit, then I ain't fucking with you, yo. Why I fear so much of the vaccine? Because I mean, how long have we been using vaccines? 200 years, maybe, not even 200 years really, where we really started studying like what causes us to get sick and understanding viruses. Man, humans been on this planet for how long? We've been here 200,000 years, doing just fine. Motherfuckers just fine. We have this thing called an immune system. It's natural and it responds to the environment. You know what I'm saying? All you gotta do is eat healthy food and get enough sunlight, and your immune system will be nice and tight for you. And that shit'll help you fight off viruses. But you know what I'm saying? Humans been doing fine. For thousands of years, we have been just fine. But now all of a sudden, motherfuckers think a vaccine is the only way we're gonna survive. Everybody's gonna die. We're gonna spread this plague if we don't all get vaccinated. I don't think so. You know, I don't think that the world is gonna come to an end and everybody is gonna catch a super bug and die if we don't all get vaccinated. I don't think that's gonna happen. So I don't feel the need to vaccinate myself. I don't want to inject any kind of foreign bodies into myself that I don't have to. You know what I'm saying? Once again, last time I had the flu, I did go to the doctor because I just want to know what was wrong. And this has been years ago. It was like probably 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And they gave me, I think they just gave me some morphine or something, yo. You know, they swabbed me and temperatured and blood pressured and did all this shit, a little bit of blood, I think, and they gave me some morphine and some kind of pill to lower my temperature and sent me home. And then they called me the next day and they said, "Oh yeah, Mr. Prince, you have the B strand of the influenza this year." And my temperature was like 102.3 degrees or some dumbass shit, yo. And I thought I was about to die. I felt bad. That's why I went to the emergency room. I felt bad, yo. I was hurting so bad. I was crying. The pain was unbearable. But when they hit me with that morphine, I was like, yo, shit. Yo, the morphine was feeling good, yo. But now, I mean, my body recovered from that shit. And I still ain't never get the flu. I still don't get the flu vaccine, yo. Like, if that shit would have took me out, like what I'm gonna do, 102 degree temperature in the fucking hospital bed, and they gonna give me the flu vaccine right then, and that shit just automatically cures me in like 20 hours or something. I don't think that shit would have worked like that either. If my system wasn't strong enough to survive that shit, I would have died right then. So, whatever. Took some drugs, helped with the fever, got some hydration, got some rest. Body bounced back from that shit. You know what I'm saying? And that was the last time. It was about 5 or 6 years ago where I had like the flu, you know? And other than that, like, and like I say, I was in so much pain. I went in like, but I had tears in my eyes like, yo, motherfucker, crying, yo, shit hurt, yo. Take me to the emergency room, man. Feel like I'm dying. If I'm gonna die, I don't need it. I don't want my body to be in a house and y'all gotta move this shit and all that, man. Just have me already at the hospital, nigga. But you know what I'm saying? Even after feeling like that, I don't feel like, phew, I don't ever want to feel like that again. I better go down to CVS and get my vaccination for the flu this year. Like, fuck that shit, yo. Yeah, what up? Yeah, some motherfuckers be having like a touch of flu or a bad cold or some shit, yo. Like, nah, like a real case of influenza. Like it's probably just like the coronavirus, man. You can't breathe, your body pain, yo. And like my shit was my fucking fever, yo. Like I was over 102 degrees for like the better part of a day, and I couldn't get my temperature to go down. That's why I knew I had to go to the fucking hospital. Like, your body temperature stay too hot like that for too long, you start fucking cooking your brain and shit, bro. But that is your body's natural defense. It senses something in you and it's trying to burn that bitch up, yo. So your body just try to heat that shit up as hot as it can to kill anything that's not supposed to be there. But then you wind up fucking tearing up delicate tissues and shit from staying hot so long. No, I'm good, yo. I'm good. For a week, bro, a full 7-8 days, you ain't doing shit, nigga. Nothing. You ain't doing nothing. It hurt, and that shit just had you so weak, yo. There's like no energy, no strength. Like, yo, this shit be crazy. And like you say, I still don't feel like I need to take the flu shot. And I was sick earlier this year, or feeling bad, and the corona shit going around too, and I'm like, uh-oh. And like a couple days I felt bad enough not to go to work. It was like icky. I had this like weird, like this wimpy kind of puny feeling, but I wasn't like nauseous or throwing up. It was just like a little bit of headache. I can't really describe it. It just didn't feel good, you know. Like I said, I didn't feel good enough to go to work, but it wasn't. I mean, I was still up, walking around, eating, still had an appetite and shit. And I don't know. It was some weird ass little bug, but Like, I knew that wasn't the fucking flu, or it was a touch of the flu or some shit, and it definitely wasn't no coronavirus. But, like, after 2 days, I just felt better again. You know what I'm saying? But, yeah, like that flu, like that real flu shit, oh, boy, I thought I was dead, nigga. Thought that shit was about to kill me. Yeah, you don't forget no real flu, bro. You don't ever, yeah. If you ever had the flu, you ain't gonna forget that shit. You might have it. And why are you getting tested though? Like, are you feeling bad now, or have you been around somebody? Is it for a job or some shit where, or somewhere you gotta go where they're like, oh, you gotta get tested for COVID before you come here, or I don't know. Like, I've been in and out the doctor a lot, so I've been answering my COVID questions every time I go to the doctor. Have you been out the country? Have you been around anybody? You gotta wear your face mask and make sure you don't come here too early for your appointment because we're trying to limit the spread of COVID. And I'm like, I get it, people. I get it. So I've been in and out the hospital a good bit. So, but yeah, motherfuckers getting tested for different reasons. And do I got paint on my shit? Yep. I was gonna track that on the carpet downstairs. Ain't that some dumbass shit, bro? Damn. I'm happy I look, cause that's some wet paint. But anyway. Nope. My job does that. My job has our local hospital system come into our facility and give free flu shots, just like CVS or wherever else. They do it at our job. And like, all the employees are like, well, you can just go get your free flu shot. And I'm like, no thank you. No thanks. I'll be okay. Hey, Travis, you didn't get your flu shot? I'm good. Ow, I can't fucking see. The miracles of technology. Now I have 2 sets of eyes. And now I can see without bending all the way down. Yo, messing up my moon boots, man. You know how much these moon boots cost, man? Y'all can't, hey. Yo, this is the Cadillac Caprice of all boots, man. Y'all ain't never seen no shit like this, man. This is high-tech, space-age material. This Velcro, you see this Velcro? Yo, this is the same Velcro that they use on spacesuits. I ain't lying to you, man. Well, I'm probably lying. I don't know what I'm talking about. But the shit look cool as fuck, man. You know what I'm saying? It feel like I can goddamn go scuba diving or mountain climbing with this same boot. You know what I'm saying? Yes, this is technology. This is high grade, aerodynamic, space age, compression polymers, hybrid, integrated systems we talking about right here, bro. You know what I'm saying? This is cutting edge. You know what I'm saying? This is the future. Yo, gas. My brother had a buddy that had it, and my brother had it, and I got it, and I got it. Ooh. See? Y'all be around too many people, man. My brother, homie, cousin, next door neighbor, little sister, man, she was in Mexico, right? Oh, I can't be around y'all. Got that RoboCop. You don't know that shit, bro. Oh, I got the RoboCop leg. Yeah, what's the dude from Grandma's Boy? I'm gonna get robot legs. Nigga, I already got robot legs. Lieutenant Dan. Yo, Lieutenant Dan ain't got shit on me, boy. You know what I'm saying? Ain't got shit on me, son. Yes, that's that air crest. What? Don't make me do it. Don't make me what, nigga? What? Pump that shit up on your ass. Pump it up. That's what me and D1 already know, bro. Like, this shit don't affect me. Oh, how have you been holding up since COVID? The same. Murphy. Yeah. Yo, shit is the same. You have no legs. But you don't know about that shit, bro. You know what I'm saying? Watch out now. This we call this the over the pants look, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Over the pants. We got different settings on here, so I can pump up different regions of the boot. You know what I'm saying? Number one, that shit pump up my toes. Number two, that shit pump up my ankles and shit. You know what I'm saying? Number three, that shit pump up my calf. You know what I'm saying? You get the perfect fit for walking on water, walking on the surface of the moon where the gravity is very low. You know what I'm saying? Walking on the surface of the sun. You can take these shits anywhere. Off-roading. You know what I'm saying? It gives you that buoyancy. I mean, you see it like in the cartoons where Roll Runner, he just run across the water. I can do the same shit, bro. You wanna see? Let's see. I'll show y'all later. I'll show y'all. It's buoyant. You know what I'm saying? Moon boots. But yeah, bro, I've been trying to stay busy. As I just said that later. Oh, been trying to stay as busy as possible. Yo, that shit, goddamn, it feels so nice, man. I might ask the doctor for one for my right foot. For what? For fashion, nigga. Fashion. But there's nothing wrong with your right foot. I know. You know what I'm saying? That's how motherfuckers started wearing Timberland boots. Man, those shits is work boots for construction sites. That ain't no fashion boot. That is something motherfuckers used to wear to work. You know what? Then somebody look at them Timbs, brand new on the shelf, and like, I'm gonna wear them shits to the club. And then look, Timberlands, a household name in fashion. You know what I'm saying? And now motherfuckers hate to work in they Timberland boots. These right here, they was meant for orthopedic purposes for people in hospitals. Not no more. Fashion. What? We come in black, green, multicolor, where you got a black on the back, red on the front, you know what I'm saying? Had your straps, you know, with the, had a off-white straps on it. Psh, bruh, chillin'. You know what I'm saying? I might deck my shit out, son. Now that I think about it. We might have a little project over here. Wait. Damn. Alright, my bad. I just had like a couple ideas. Man, I might deck out my fucking boot, yo. Yeah. Might come up with some shit for this. You know what I'm saying? Wear that shit with the overalls? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Might be something, bro. I was already thinking about that shit too. Like, everything that I have right now for this injury, I might put all that shit into like a still life, yo. Cause I got crutches. I got the little peg leg, like pirate leg shit. I got a shower chair. I got like this sleeve. It's like a leg condom, and it's like this rubber sleeve that you can pull on so that you get wet in the shower. I got this boot. Like, I should just take all this shit that I've had to use throughout this time where I'm injured and just like take a picture of all that shit, you know, and paint that bitch. Never forget that shit, yo. Like I said, when they gave me my boot the other day, I had to take my stitches out. This is the most I've ever done. I actually had like real fucking surgery and shit, yo, where they had to put me under and had like mad stitches and all kind of shit. And then like when they took my cast off and the doctor was like, "Oh, it looks good, so we're gonna pull your stitches out." Yo, that shit felt weird as fuck. It like hurt, but didn't hurt like really bad, but it hurt enough. And just the sensation, cause how they work. Since it's the back of my heel, I was laying on my stomach so that the back of my foot was up, so I couldn't actually see what they were doing. But just like when she started snipping them shits and pulling them shits out, I was like gripping the bed, like, "Whoa, what the fuck, son? That shit, oh shit, nigga." It was like, I don't know, it felt like I still can't describe that shit. It just felt weird as shit, yo. But stitches coming out, ugh, man. So, all kind of motherfucking experiences I'm having right now. This shit is crazy. Yo, you ought to see it, yo. This shit is like it's a big, long ass, like, bag. It's like a foot bag. It's like a leg condom, bro. And then it has, like, it has this gasket at this, so it's a polyurethane, like a really thick plastic bag, and then it's attached to like this hard plastic, like a PVC type rim on it, and then in the rim of the PVC is like this really stretchy rubber band type elastic with a small hole, but the shit stretches out real big, so you pull that shit on, and then the gasket, it just fits tight and makes a water seal around your fucking skin, and you can just take a shower. But now I have this, and this comes off, so I can actually like wash my foot now, so I don't need that anymore. But wrap it up, yo. 5 foot surgeries. Oh my God. 5 foot surgeries, bro. How long were you not walking? How long were you not walking, bro? Oh my God. Going to my personal Facebook page here. Facebook. Let's go to my page. Scroll down. Scroll down. Dave Chappelle, Saturday Night Live. Bro, you already know I done seen that shit and post that shit. That shit was crazy. Crazy. That shit was funny as hell, yo. Yo, 5 foot surgeries. My nigga. I can't even imagine, bro. What do? You step on the landmine or something? Huh? What happened, bro? Jesus Christ. What? Damn, 5 foot surgeries. I tore my Achilles tendon, and this is something that I would wish on an enemy. Like somebody really pissed me off, I think to myself, you know what, motherfucker? I hope you tear your Achilles tendon so you can go through this shit and see how terrible it is. Because it's not like you're going to die. It's not like life-threatening, but it hurts like a fucking bitch. And it's a long recovery process. So don't fuck with me, because I'll curse a motherfucker with this same injury, yo. Like, you know? Reconstruction foot surgery. See, that's what you get for fucking with the mob, bruh. I heard the mops is a motherfucking break your ankles with bats and all kind of shit when you own money. Yo, stop borrowing money from these motherfuckers, bro. You don't have to have all this goddamn foot surgery and all this shit. That you play with people money. That what happened. 5 foot surgeries later. 5 foot surgeries later. No. Hey man. Pay them motherfuckers back their money on time. I don't borrow the money. Jeez. We all got habits. Cocaine, women, gambling. Hey man. But don't borrow the money from the wrong people. Cause they break your feet. And then what? Surgery after surgery after surgery. I'm sorry to hear that, bro. Cause this is, I don't know, like I said, I've never sustained a injury as extensive as this in my life. This is the worst I've ever fucked myself up before, ever. And it hurts and it sucks so fucking bad. So I can imagine you going through like 5 different surgeries. Jeez, bro. Yeah, I'm fucking with you, but I can, hey, I feel your pain, bro. I can't imagine like doing this shit 4 more times. I don't want to do this 4 more times, bro. Nah. The one time was one time too many for me. I didn't want to do it the one time. Yeah, I can imagine. Shit. Alright. I'll try to paint for a little while. Get some of this painting done. Anything interesting in the news? Real quick. Let's see. I know that's right. Gotta knock on wood, yo. I hope this never happen again. Fuck that. Anything in the news? Well, my news is Facebook, so all I gotta do is scroll down and see if anybody has posted anything this morning. Let me see if there is somebody else. Yo, somebody just posted a picture of Bill Burr and Dave Chappelle, because Bill Burr's SNL monologue, that shit was fucking crazy as shit too. He came hard at white women, yo. I was like, what the fuck? But this is wild, because no lie, yo, these are my favorite 2 comedians. And I say this a lot because I really do like the comparison. I think when you look at Richard Pryor and George Carlin, like when they were in their prime, I think Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr are like the reincarnation of these 2 older comedians, yo. Like the way, I don't know. Like they're fucking great, yo. Bill Burr is a great stand-up comedian, yo. All right. Nope. No. I don't see any news feeds like news. All right. Let's check here. And if not, we're just gonna finish listening to some of this Joe Rogan podcast. And no. All right. So let's turn this back on.
Discussing what he thinks is really going on with Afghanistan. He's like, there's no reason for us to be over there. He goes, I think they're over there to suck money out of taxpayers, and that's what they're doing. And when Trump was interviewing, or rather Steve Hilton was interviewing Trump, I've known Steve Hilton for a long time.
That's the Next Revolution?
Yeah,
I've met him. He's a good dude.
He's a very nice guy. I was friends with him long before he was ever at Fox News. I met him in Maui.
Oh, yeah?
On the beach. His kids were playing with my kids when they were real little, and we became friends. And we've gone on vacations together. Like, I know him very well.
That's cool. By the way, I know the exact interview that you're talking about. I think it was one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
When he's talking about the military-industrial complex. We got other people, they want to go to war. Military-industrial complex, it's real. Eisenhower warned us about it.
This is the thing. By the way, that moment, this is why the establishment hates Donald Trump so much.
Yeah.
Because he is uncontrollable, and he might just blurt out, sitting down outside the White House with Steve Hilton, that, oh, you know what? There's a whole bunch of people around me who want to go to war because it makes them billions of dollars.
Billions.
And this is like, and this is just the president, the commander-in-chief saying it. Now, on the other side, Trump didn't end any of these wars. He kept talking about doing it, and then he'd always back out at the last minute.
Why do you think that is?
Well, you know, I don't know exactly, but I know that whenever he would make a move to try to end one of these wars, the press would go nuts circling him. I mean, they always were, but they'd dial it up to like 11. And then he'd have people within his administration undermining him at every turn. Yeah. At every turn. I remember back, I was a contributor
So who is
on
this?
Esty Cup show. She's got a show on CNN. I was a contributor there for like a year. And there was one time where it was Donald Trump came out and said that
Steve Hilton. All right. Joe Rogan says he's friends with this guy. I'll listen to some of his stuff later.
Joe Rogan podcast, check it out. The Joe Rogan
explain all of these. I mean, they sold the war in Iraq, and so it's, to me,
DraftKings, you might think sports, but there's so much more. DraftKings use their top-of-the-line tech.
It's not the worst thing in the world if people at least recognize that these institutions are completely compromised. And I agree with you that there is a role for objective journalism, but I would at least accept if they were like, hey, listen, we think, like what you just said, we think we have this platform and we need to use this to get Donald Trump not elected. At least be honest with it. Don't bullshit me and tell me we're just doing objective news and every single story is about how Donald Trump is, needs to.
They don't even address it. They don't say they're doing objective news anymore. They just do their thing.
Well, they call other news fake news. So they'll say
the New York Times doesn't.
Well, the New York Times may not, but I'm speaking in the corporate press in general.
Right.
They'll say like, well, there's fake news out on the internet, and even the New York Times has done stories about how social media companies need to do more to, combat fake news on the internet and things like that.
But they're talking about like super hardcore QAnon type shit, aren't they?
Well, kind of. I mean, it starts with that, and then they'll use that as an example, but then usually they also go to other things like, look, this New York Post story about Hunter Biden's laptop was called fake news from the day it came out, to the point that not only would all of the corporate press not report on it, but that social media companies were banning the link, and Twitter froze the New York Post's Twitter account.
One of the CNN journalists on Twitter called it Russian
bunch of people called it Russian disinformation.
I wonder if it was Russian disinformation, the photo of the girl giving him a foot job.
Yes.
Was that Russian?
That was all. She was Russian, and the foot was Russian. It was a Russian foot job.
What happened to that? I kind of lost track of what was happening with the laptop, but they like.
We got way past this part.
Rudy Giuliani sold it on eBay.
He would make a move to try to end one of these wars. The press would go nuts circling him. I mean, they always were, but they'd dial it up to like 11. And then he'd have people within his administration undermining him at every turn. At every turn. I remember back, I was a contributor on a SE Cup show. She's got a show on CNN. I was a contributor there for like a year. And there was one time where it was Donald Trump came out and said that we're getting out of Syria. And he goes, look, our only goal in Syria is to defeat ISIS. That's all we care about. And they're almost defeated. As soon as they're defeated, we're getting out completely out of Syria. And then about a week later, McMaster's put out this statement where he was saying, these are our goals in Syria. And one of them was regime change to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. And then he gets fired like a week after that. And their take at CNN was kind of like, well, isn't this great that at least one of the adults in the room is like, no, Donald Trump, this is what we're doing in Syria. We're having another regime change. And I was like losing my shit, like, wait, hold on. However you feel about this, he's the commander-in-chief. The Secretary of State doesn't get to decide, no, we're fighting a war.
Here it is.
Oh, this is the Steve Hilton one, yeah.
Electric companies compete. You win. Compare and choose a provider in 3 easy steps. Enter your zip. Compare.
He was particularly orange that day.
They want to keep. You have people here in Washington. They never want to leave. I said, you know what I'll do? I'll leave a couple of 100 soldiers behind. But if it was up to them, they'd bring thousands of soldiers in. Someday people will explain it.
Well, this is
you do have a group, and they call it the military-industrial complex. They never want to leave. They always want to fight. No, I don't want to fight. But you do have situations like Iran. You can't let them have nuclear weapons. You just can't let that happen.
A friend of mine today was talking about The Art of the Deal. I've never read The Art of the Deal, but he was in rehab. When he was in rehab, he had a lot of time, and he read The Art of the Deal. And he's like, it's remarkably progressive, even by today's standards. He's like, he wrote this in like the 80s.
Well, Donald Trump was never that, I mean...
He's got flaws.
Oh, no question.
But the problem is they overwhelm anything good about him. Where like you get these flaws, like the bragging and the craziness and the not telling the truth about things and
the tricky thing with Trump is that if it wasn't for these character flaws or these qualities that are partly, have these character flaws, he'd never be the president.
Right.
But then once he becomes president, you're like, man, I wish you could just plug up these couple holes and keep saying shit like that, because that would be really awesome. Like, we really do need a guy who's taking on the military-industrial complex and pushing to end these wars and exposing a lot of the corruption. But also the other problem is that this was never really what animated Trump. But the problem is that with Donald Trump, I think that a lot of the Trump haters project this thing onto Donald Trump like he's literally Hitler. A lot of the Trump lovers project this thing onto him like he's our savior.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it's just what you see.
Yeah.
He's just that. He's the guy who he's as shallow a thinker as he seems. He's instinctually brilliant, but intellectually, he really just cares about being the best. I won. I was terrific. Everybody knows it. And so I think
that's served him well his whole life.
Sure has.
The idea that all of a sudden he becomes president, he's going to abandon that and become presidential.
No, it's not going to happen. But anyone who was a decent gentleman or didn't have those qualities would never have gotten to where he was. He got to where he was because he was willing to say, he got to where he was in large part because he had a quality that Bernie Sanders didn't have about him. Bernie Sanders is entirely too nice of a guy to lead a revolution. He would always say, we're leading a revolution. And then you'd have Joe Biden, who's the epitome of the system that you want to revolt against. And he'd go, look, Joe's a very decent guy. He's my friend. I'm not going to say anything bad about him. And you're like, well, you're probably not going to lead a fucking revolution if you're not willing to lob some insults. I'm not saying you have to lob bullets, but You got to at least.
Do you though? Do you,
well, you
have
to at least
do
attack. You have to at least attack what he stands
But
for. I'm not
here's-
saying you have to call him a fat loser. I'm saying you have to go. Listen, you are the epitome of Washington corruption. You've enriched your own family while you're getting other people killed, while you're selling out the country. Yes, I think you have to go for the jugular if you're actually going to beat this system.
Isn't it strange though that you have to do that? You can't just espouse the merits of your own ideas.
Well,
you have to attack.
But, if you're a real human being, right? Like, let's say what Donald Trump was just saying. And by the way, Bernie Sanders pretty much agrees with him on that. He's talked about how war is big business and how we were lied into the war in Iraq, and he voted. Bernie Sanders, to his credit, he was one of the very few Democrats in the Senate who voted against the war in Iraq at the time. Mm-hmm. Very few Democrats in the Senate actually stood their ground, and good for him for doing that. But you're talking about people lying to get real human beings slaughtered to make people money. I mean, if you talk about that and you don't have some type of outrage about it, that just doesn't seem to make...
The Hyundai Tucson, from the brand with more 2020 IIHS Top Safety Awards than Honda or Toyota.
Now for a limited time, lease a Tucson for only $160.
Sense to me. Like, that's not how a real human being should feel.
No, I totally understand, but I wonder if, like, in the middle of that, when you're insulting people, you're perpetuating, you're keeping going this sort of system that's been in place for so long, where you talk about your merits, you shit on the flaws of your opponent. He does the same to you. Whoever lands the most blows wins. I mean, this is highlighted by the way Kamala Harris has sort of talked about her debate with Biden. Right? When she was on Colbert, she's like, it was a debate. It was a debate. But it's like, that's the only way to do it? Is the only way to do it to shit on the other person?
I think that you have to, I think there's nothing wrong with really running on your ideas. And I think that part Bernie Sanders did, And I don't like a lot of Bernie Sanders' ideas. I think he's got some that are really good.
Which ones do you like?
Well, okay, what I love about Bernie Sanders is that he voted against the war in Iraq, as I just said. He was great in the Senate about the war in Yemen and trying to bring that to an end, which is just this god-awful nightmare that's still going on, that Obama started and Trump continued. I mean, what's happening in Yemen is one of the biggest tragedies in my lifetime.
To people.
So Yemen is the poorest country in the Middle East, which is saying something. They were already the poorest country in the Middle East before any of this happened. And the Saudis basically went to war with the Houthis in Yemen, and America backed the Saudis under Barack Obama. What Obama administration said to placate the Saudis. Basically, the Saudis were pissed off about a lot of things, and they're a big business partner with us. And so they were pissed off about the war in Iraq. The Saudis didn't want the war in Iraq. They kind of foresaw what would happen, that it would give Iran control of the region and it would be a nightmare. But the Cheneyites really wanted the war in Iraq. Israel really wanted the war in Iraq, and the neocons won, and they got the war. And so they were already pissed off about that. And then they were really pissed off that Obama made the Iran deal with Iran. And so to placate, which I believe was the direct quote, to placate the Saudis, Obama decided to back them in this war against Yemen. And they put a full blockade around the country, which was already the poorest country in the Middle East. And this led to the UN said it was the worst humanitarian crisis in the world. And this was before COVID, but I think it's still probably up there. There were well over 1 million cases of cholera, which is basically, curable with, I think, liquids. I think Gatorade could solve cholera. I don't know, you might need antibiotics or something like that. But it was children and old people just dying in massive numbers. I still don't think they know the exact numbers. It's going to be somewhere on the scale of what the war in Iraq was, hundreds of thousands of people dead. And Bernie Sanders really led the effort to try to end it in the Senate, and he did a great job on that, phenomenal. He also has a great bill proposed to decriminalize marijuana on a federal level, which I think would be phenomenal. And so there were
and he wanted to take a part of Ron Paul's plan and audit the Fed as well. And so, like I say, once again, if somebody who I can go along with on the majority of their policies. So they kept saying Bernie was a democratic socialist and this and that, but like the shit that he was like, and that's why I was really looking at Ron Paul when he was running. But the people that I like who say the good shit, I wonder why they don't ever make it all the way, you know, to being one of the last two delegates on the main two, because there's always other people to vote for. You just don't ever hear about them. But like every year, I just be waiting for that one person who I can say, okay, I agree with you enough, you know, and then I'll vote. I would until I can agree with somebody enough where I don't feel like I'm choosing the lesser of two evils. That's the only thing. It just feels so wrong. Like I don't really like either one of you guys. So why must I choose? Well, I'm not going to. I'm not going to play the game. But if you give me like a young type Bernie Sanders or once again like Andrew Yang, I think he had an idea. I know the one dude from New Jersey, what his name was. Damn. I know the New Jersey guy, one of his main things was decriminalizing marijuana, taking it off the federal drug scale. And that's the thing, is like, don't let the federal level run that shit, yo. Leave that shit up to the states to decide for themselves if it's going to be, you know, medicinal, decriminalized, or recreational. Damn, why can't I? Chris something? I can't remember his name. Anyway, but I think Andrew Yang had said something about taking marijuana off the federal drug scale. That's what I'm saying. Just give me something. Give me something to go on, man. And I'll vote for you. I really would. But I don't know, man. And Biden, like his every little campaign commercial I see from him is just, we can't open the country until we beat the virus. And I think that's his whole platform. I don't know, it's like beating Corona or taking a better handle over this coronavirus situation so that we can open the economy back up. I don't really see like what his real plans are. Like I don't know. Man.
I don't think, like, those would probably be the ones I'd pick that I thought were really great about Bernie Sanders. So I think running on issues, probably one of my big criticisms of him is that he doesn't really lead with those issues. Like those aren't the things he talked about a lot on the campaign trail, but he was excellent on all of those. So I think he could run on his principles, you know, but I think you have to at some point have a little bit of a killer instinct to become the alpha monkey, to become the leader of this country. And I thought that Bernie Sanders could have won the whole election with the tone that he started in the primary, and he didn't. And I think that Bernie Sanders, like, look, the corporate press completely came down to try to ruin it for him. Who knows what the DNC did this time? I mean, it was exposed in 2016. Who knows what they were doing behind the scenes?
Well, we know what they were doing. We know that was the reason why Klobuchar and Buttigieg dropped out.
Well, that we know.
We know that Warren stayed in to siphon votes off of Bernie.
No question.
We know they gave their delegates over to Biden.
No question. We know that much. We know that right now. We don't know exactly who made the phone calls. I think there was reporting that Barack Obama had called a couple of them.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it sure does. But you're right. So all the competition with Biden drops out right before Super Tuesday. Bernie Sanders' competition, Elizabeth Warren, stays in till the bitter end.
I think they felt like with Bernie, even though there's talk that they couldn't control him, right? There's also talk that he couldn't win because there's certain key states that he's never going to win. Because even though that message resonated with a lot of people, including me, what resonated with me is, first of all, absolving people of student debt. I know a lot of people that are wrapped up in student debt, and I think it's one of the best examples of, first of all, you have essentially children, right? You have someone who's 17, 18 years old, they're going into school, and they're taking on enormous debt. And they don't, I think you can make the real argument that they don't have the intellectual capacity to understand the ramifications of this. Maybe some do, maybe some don't. But when you're talking about people that are in debt hundreds of thousands of dollars by the time they get out of school, and then they get out of school and they get a job that pays 40 grand a year, do the math. How long before you catch up? You never catch up. There's people to this day that are getting Social Security, that are getting their Social Security docked because they owe money for student loans. I mean, you're at the end of the fucking game.
Is that true? Are people
yeah.
old enough for Social Security?
Oh,
and
yeah.
they had student loan debts
Oh,
like that?
yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, that's going on right now. Make sure that's true, Jamie. Sounds really good what I'm saying. Pretty sure it's true.
Well, that is, and they are victims of a corrupt scheme,
yes,
for sure.
It's a bad system. And I think if we have all this money to go to Afghanistan and put on these endless wars, the idea that we don't have enough money to provide a reasonably priced education. I'm not saying it should be free. Maybe it should cost a little bit because I think people work harder when they have to work for something. Mm-hmm. But the idea that you should be hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt by the time you get out, and the reality of the economy is that even before COVID, if you got out, the odds of you getting a job that's like going to be able to even put a dent in that debt in your chosen field, they're not that good.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
so
no question about all of that.
19% of your Social Security payments can be garnished to repay a student loan debt. Your monthly benefit cannot sink below $700. Well,
okay. Good
luck living on $750 a month.
And this is also for people who are like 35 now when they retire. Like, what's that going to be?
So I mean, that's not that long ago, man. If you think about someone who's 65, right? So once, no, look at this. Are student loans forgiven after 65? There are no student loan forgiveness programs specifically for senior citizens. Elderly student loan borrowers are eligible for the same loan forgiveness programs as other borrowers. Well, that's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy if you're that old and you're on a fixed income and you really can't physically work anymore. And we don't, if we're a community, right? And this is one of the things I think about the United States, the idea of a country. We're supposed to be a community. Even though we're broken off into these countries and they're broken off in these cities, and we're broken off by ideologies and we're separated by all these different lines in the sands that we draw. At the end of the day, we're all contributing to this pool. We're putting our tax dollars in and we're deciding what's important and what's not. For me, student loan forgiveness was a big thing because I was like, we've got to stop this cycle of fucking people over economically when they're 18 years old. It doesn't make any sense.
Fair enough, but I just think that I agree with the spirit of everything you're saying, and I think when I said it's a corrupt system, it's just that the fact that you have all of these parties involved, where you have like the government who's guaranteeing all of these student loans, and then you have, for a while, I think now it's all done straight from the federal government, for a while you have these financial companies that are giving out the loans and then taking in the interest and profiting off of them. Yeah. And then you have these universities who are able to raise their tuition over and over, and there's always a market for it because the loans are guaranteed by the government. So so now you have all of these people just raking in money, and the politicians get to brag about all these kids going to college. And then who's fucked is the 17, 18-year-old who was told their whole life that, oh, just take the loan out, whatever you got to do, because this will lead you to a better life, and then the jobs aren't there for them. So but the problem, if you want to break this cycle, the problem is the government guaranteeing the loans to begin with.
Right.
Because this is what it's subsidized. This is why college inflates faster than almost any other price in the market. And so I would just think, even if we are going to forgive the loans that are out there now, what you need to do is stop the loans, cut them off, and let the prices of college come back to something that's more reasonable, like they were in like our parents' generation, where you could work a summer job and pay off your college.
And then you've also got a very interesting situation in college where most professors are left-leaning.
And most of the shit you're learning is useless. And not all of it, but a whole lot of it.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but some of it's going to be useless. But let's not concentrate on that, because you're supposed to be expanding your horizons, and there's social growth, being outside of your family for the first time. There's all sorts of.
But you can do that in lots of ways than spending $100 grand to go get drunk at a frat party.
You can, but how many of those ways ensure intellectual competition? How many of those ways ensure that you're going to get together with other students and you're going to debate things, you're going to discuss issues, you're going to learn things, you're going to talk amongst yourselves. You're going to also all be forced to take these rigorous courses that demand a lot of you intellectually. That it's very.
I like that in theory. I just don't know how much that's happening in universities. But I get your point.
But let's agree, it's the only place where it's happening.
Sure.
For 18-year-olds. Trust me, because I barely spent any time in college. My time in college was 3 years at UMass Boston and barely paying attention, right? So these people that are teaching these kids overwhelmingly lean left. Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't lean left. If this is how you feel, you should express yourself. But it is really odd in a country that thrives on this concept of diversity, that there's almost no diversity in the intellectual ideologies that these professors have.
Yeah.
Like, what are the numbers of professors in this country? What percentage of professors identify as Marxists? Let's take a guess. I'm going to say it's in the 20s.
Yeah, I probably guess something like that. But then there's also identifying as Marxist, and then there's like being influenced by, say, like postmodernism.
Yeah, but we're going as far as we can. This is far.
Marxist.
That's as far left as we can get, right?
Yeah, it might be under 20%. I'm not sure.
But we can agree that it's a really far left stance to say you're a Marxist.
Sure. Yeah, that's pretty far.
Pretty far left. So, but I'm saying, like, what percentage identifies the hardest of hard lefts?
Very close.
What is it?
There's an article that says about 18% of social scientists in the U.S. self-identify as Marxists.
Oh, but that's social scientists.
I know. I typed in professors. It says professors in the top. But
yeah, because if you're talking about professors in like other, harder sciences.
Yeah. 18% of social scientists. Okay.
But that's still an interesting.
That's a large number, and that's a large number of people that are teaching like critical race theory and gender theory, and there's a lot of.
This is right. So this is where all the woke shit comes from.
Right.
And this is really destructive.
Well, this is where your kids go. Only about 5% who identify as conservative. Isn't that? That seems crazy.
You've got 18% Marxist, 5% conservative.
An AEI panel discussion, was that?
Yeah, that's what I was going to see what that is. I was going to see
titled
the 15 people they asked.
The Closed-Minded Campus, the Stifling of Ideas in American Universities. But it's one of those things where it's like, what is most appealing to young kids? Compassion. What happens to people when they get older? Realism. What happens to people when they get older and then they're worried about their physical health? And then conservatism.
Right.
I mean, it's like that's one of the reasons why conservatism and even in libertarianism, that when you think about it, when you do this sort of like real narrow-minded view of what that means to people, for a lot of people it means cruelty. It means a lack of compassion. It means this like blind faith in capitalism and competition. And that's one of the things that freaks out young people, because young people, as they enter into the world and they start learning things and they leave their parents, a lot of times, first of all, they feel suppressed by their parents. They feel like the parents who probably work really hard in order to get them to go to school, to be able to afford their school, will probably work really hard in order just to keep the family together, just in terms of the amount of money you have to have a house and 2 cars and live in America and pay your taxes and send your kids to college. Like, goddamn, you got to work.
Yeah.
You fucking have to work. And so if you're a kid and you're just living off your parents, and then you're hearing all this like hardcore shit, like your parents want you to be successful, and you're like, Jesus Christ, leave me alone. And then you get to school and you drop acid, and you learn about Marxism, and you learn about socialism, and you're like, we can all just get together, we can just pool all our money together, and we're gonna be fine. And there was a discussion. Who was it that was it on this show? I think it was. I was talking to somebody, and they were talking about the early days of the United States. And in the early days of the United States with wheat production, the initial ideas were that they were going to pool all the food together.
I think this was actually pre-United States. I think this was in the colonies. Right?
I think you're right. I think you're right. And then they realized really, really quickly that this didn't work. And they go, okay, scrap that. What you grow, you eat. Yep. And they're like, oh shit, I gotta go to work.
Yeah.
And then people started busting their ass. There's a diffusion of responsibility that comes from this idea that you are an individual and that the government should provide for you. You know, like there's so many people in this country, there's so much money. Look at all the trillions they spend on military. Look at all the trillions they spend on infrastructure. Look at all the trillions they give to the fossil fuel industry and all this. They start running all these numbers and they go, why can't the government take care of everybody? Why?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and that is one of the, like, my position is basically that the government shouldn't do any of this shit, and we don't have the money for any of it,
Right.
and we shouldn't rob it from people. But it is a strong argument from, like, an AOC type,
Yes.
where they'll be like, oh, well, we don't have this money, and she can go, yeah, but every time you right-wingers want a war, you
So
always find
this
the
is
money for it.
Where I was going. So you have young people
Mhm.
who do have these idealistic perspectives like AOC, and then they go through the university system, and they're taught this by people who don't enter the real world.
Yes.
Right? These people, they stay in academia. They learn, they grow, they become professors, they get tenure. They're there, and this is their world. And in their world, they get to shape young minds. And they shape young minds who are already open to these ideas of compassion and of being different than their fucking parents who are so hardcore. Your parents had to feed you, you fucks. Your parents are out there grinding.
A little bit of gratitude.
It's
probably good,
fucking
yeah.
hard. It's hard to get by.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard.
No, so I completely get what you're saying. But the other thing about, you know, which I guess just concerns me a little bit about abolishing, you know, student debt or forgiving student debt is that, well, number one, the first thing I said is that it's like, well, okay, if we don't get the system fixed, then we're going to forgive this debt and then keep perpetuating more people in debt. So something still needs to be done there. But the problem is also that, like, you know, when you say forgive debt or you have the taxpayer pick any of this stuff up, it's just coming from other people. It's you're taxing working people to pay for this.
But
and
why?
There's something.
But why does it have to be that way? The government already subsidizes it, right?
Right.
So what if they didn't do that? What if there was a way to figure out like a reasonable solution to how professors are paid, how students pay for their education? What if there's a reasonable solution that was profitable?
I'd be all for that if there was a
Is that
reasonable
feasible?
solution. I think so, but I think basically the solution is to just get the government out of the business of higher education. If there are institutions of higher education that are providing enough value for people, like you come here, you're going to be way better in life in that scene, then people are going to want to send their kids there.
Okay.
Let them survive on their own.
But what about Canada? What about the UK? What about places that pay for education?
Yeah, I mean there are like other countries that do that, and okay, fair enough. Like that, I mean, I don't know enough about the Canadian university system, but I'll tell you this: they have just as big a problem with what you were talking about before with the woke shit, maybe even more.
Maybe even more. Well, their president's woke.
All right, let me get out of here for a minute. All right. Let's see. Still working on the underpainting. We got the sky in the background, the water blocked in, and we're starting to add some color to her scarf, which has like chain wings and some pink zebra stripes, and I don't know, that's gonna be kind of hard to paint this thing. But we'll see. Alright, I'll get with y'all guys later.